The 51 Greatest Players in Super Bowl History. Crafting a list of the greatest players in Super Bowl history is a near impossible endeavor. Do you favor the biggest stars? Those who shone brightest on Super Sunday? The ones with a sustained level of excellence? While undertaking this fool's errand, we weighed each consideration, attempting to also make it representative of all positions rather than skew too heavily toward quarterbacks or offensive players who more easily show up in the box score and MVP log. With that prologue in mind, here's our list of the 51 greatest players in Super Bowl history. 1. QB Tom Brady, the New England Patriots poster boy, has more rings, 5, than any other quarterback and more Super Bowl MVPs, 4, than anybody. His record 7 Super Bowl starts have allowed him to become the game's all-time leader in passes, 309, completions, 207, yards, 2,071, and TDs, 15. And last year's record 466 yards while orchestrating the greatest comeback in the game's history was the cherry on top. And the book isn't closed on TB12 quite yet. 2. QB Joe Montana. He's been overtaken in several categories by Brady, who grew up idolizing the man who set the gold standard for Super Bowl quarterback play. Montana went 4-0 on Super Sunday, was named MVP thrice and had 11 TD passes with nary an interception, which explains his remarkable record for passer rating, 127.8. And who can forget the methodical, 92-yard TD drive he led, capped by the game-winning throw to John Taylor in the final minute, to win Super Bowl 23. 3. W.R. Jerry Rice. As you'd expect of the GOAT, he's in a class by himself. He owns Super Bowl career records for receptions, 33, receiving yards, 589, and TDs, 8. No one else has more than 3 TD catches, a total Rice matched alone in Super Bowl 29. His single-game record of 215 receiving yards made him Super Bowl 23's MVP. 4. QB Terry Bradshaw. He'll always have his detractors. But it was Bradshaw, not the Pittsburgh Steelers' famed Steel Curtain, who showed the way to victory in Super Bowls 13 and 14, taking MVP honors in both games. He was the first quarterback with 4 Lombardi trophies, and his 9 TD strikes trail only Brady and Montana. And what about the toughness factor? Bradshaw threw the game-winning TD pass in Super Bowl X while taking a helmet to the jaw that literally knocked him out. 5. OLB/DeCharles Haley, count him, a record 5 Super Bowl rings, 2 with the 49ers, 3 with the Dallas Cowboys, a figure matched only by Brady. Since sacks became official in 1982, Haley's 4 1/2 are the most in the Super Bowl record book. He bagged Cincinnati Bengals QB Boomer Esiason twice in Super Bowl 23, the Niners' narrowest Super Sunday win. More, was Super Bowl the best of all time? Ranking every game more, every NFL team's MVP for the 2017 season more, Super Bowl list storylines, history on the line for Patriots, Eagles 6. QB Doug Williams. He only played in 1 Super Bowl, 22. But all the Washington Redskins star did was prove to any remaining naysayers that a black quarterback could win it all. While doing it on a hyperextended knee. While throwing 4 TD passes in an unreal 35-second quarter. 7. R.B. Emmitt Smith. The Super Bowl 28 MVP was the Cowboys' closer that night, 132 yards, 2 second-half TDs, and again in Super Bowl 30. Smith's 5 rushing TDs are a record, and his 289 rushing yards rank 3rd. 8. QB Eli Manning. We're not suggesting he's better than Big Brother Peyton. But Eli is definitely more deserving of a spot on this list given his heroics in twice winning Super Bowl MVP honors for the New York Giants with some truly miraculous plays and upsets of the Patriots. 9. R.B. Terrell Davis. In what was arguably the greatest Super Bowl effort by a tailback, he ran for 157 yards and a record-tying 3 TDs, while combating a migraine, On his way to Super Bowl 32 MVP honors as the Denver Broncos won their first title. Davis adding 102 rushing yards and 50 more receiving when Denver repeated the next year. 10. QB Joe Namath. He was more game manager than gunslinger on Super Sunday and didn't throw a touchdown in the New York Jets' monumental upset of the Baltimore Colts in Super Bowl III. But Broadway Joe wisely kept calling for effective gainers from his backs while delivering on his epic pre-game guarantee and changing the course of pro football history by vanquishing the NFL establishment. 11. Adam Vinatieri. His 34 Super Bowl points trail only Rice's 48. None were bigger than the pair of game-winning field goals Vinatieri drilled for the Patriots to end Super Bowls 36 and 38. He snagged a fourth ring with the Indianapolis Colts in 2006. 12. QB Bart Starr. The numbers won't wow you. 452 passing yards and 3 TDs combined over the course of 2 games, but the steady hand of the Green Bay Packers great also clutched the first 2 Super Bowl MVPs as a capstone to a legendary dynasty. 13. Lynn Swann. He basically built a Hall of Fame career over 4 Super Sundays. 3 of his 4 catches, totaling 161 yards, in Super Bowl X were of the acrobatic variety, including the game-deciding 64-yard TD in the fourth quarter, which is why Swann was the MVP. His 3 career TD grabs and 364 yards trail only Rice. 14. QB Steve Young. His 6 TD passes in the Niners' Super Bowl 29 victory remain a single-game Super Bowl record. And don't forget, Young collected 2 more rings as Montana's backup. 15. MLB Jack Lambert. The vampire-toothed man in the middle racked up 46 tackles during Pittsburgh's 4 victories and famously chucked Cowboys' Cliff Harris after he taunted Steelers' Roy Gerla in Super Bowl X. 16. QB Kurt Warner. With a break here and there, he'd have 3 championships instead of 1. But credit Warner for leading the long woebegone Rams and Cardinals out of the wilderness. And not only did the Super Bowl 34 MVP set a then record with 414 passing yards, his 377 yards in Super Bowls LI and 365 in Super Bowl 36 give him the 3 most prolific passing days in the game's history until Brady's explosion in Super Bowl LI. 17. R.B. Franco Harris, a 4-time champion. Nearly half of his career record 354 rushing yards came when the Super Bowl IX MVP posted a then-record 158 in the Steelers' first Super Bowl. Harris' 4 rushing scores trail only Smith. 18. MLB Ray Lewis. He was the villain of the week prior to the game, but Lewis emerged as Super Bowl 35's MVP after the dominant 2000 Baltimore Ravens defense shut out the Giants' offense. 12 years later, Lewis collected more bling in his final ride. 19. DLC Greenwood. His 4 sacks of Dallas QB Roger Staubach in Super Bowl X represent an unofficial record since the NFL didn't recognize sacks until 1982. Same goes for the 5 career sacks of Greenwood, who started all 4 of Pittsburgh's victorious Super Sundays in the 1970s. 20. OLB Ted Hendricks. He's usually remembered as a Raider, but the first of Hendricks' 4 Super Bowl wins came with the Baltimore Colts in Super Bowl V. None of the defenses he played on surrendered more than 14 points. 21. W.R. John Stallworth. Like Swann, his Steelers wingman, he has 3 Super Bowl TD grabs, 2 covering more than 70 yards. Stallworth's 73-yard TD from Bradshaw in the fourth quarter of Super Bowl XIV broke the backs of the plucky Los Angeles Rams. 22. R.B. Larixka, the workhorse for the Miami Dolphins, including the 17-0 1972 team. His 297 rushing yards in 3 games are second only to Harris. Kska scored twice and had a then-record 145 yards to net Super Bowl VIII honors and had 112 yards the previous year when Miami capped its perfect season. 23. QB Phil Simms. He threw 25 passes in Super Bowl XXI, and only 3 hit the ground. Pretty high bars. The MVP led the Giants to the first of their 4 Lombardi trophies. 24. CB Malcolm Butler. He was an undrafted rookie no-name when he made arguably the clutchest of all Super Bowl plays by undercutting Seattle Seahawks Wr. Ricardo Lockette's route at the goal line to intercept Russell Wilson's pass and turn what seemed near certain defeat into the Patriots' 4th title. Butler will never be a no-name the rest of his life. 25. Jake Scott. His pair of interceptions, including the game clincher, put a bow on the Dolphins' perfect season and brought him Super Bowl VII's MVP. 26. OLB Rod Martin. The only man to pick off 3 passes in one Super Bowl, Martin thrice victimized the Philadelphia Eagles' Ron Jaworski in Super Bowl XV. He got 1 ring when the Raiders were in Oakland and another after they moved to LA. 27. DT Joe Green. No one embodies the Steel Curtain Steelers more than Mean Joe, who started all 4 Super Bowls in the 1970s. 28. OLB Chuck Howley. He's the only man to win the MVP award despite playing for the losing side when the Cowboys fell in Super Bowl v. Howley, who set the Super Bowl career record with 3 INTs, won his ring the following year. 29. DT Manny Fernandez. He had a remarkable 17 tackles and 1 sack, unofficial totals, in the Dolphins' Super Bowl VII win and almost certainly should have been named the MVP. 30. CB Ty Law. His 47-yard pick-6 off Warner in Super Bowl XXXVI helped chart the course for New England's dynastic run. Law wound up winning 3 championships with the Patriots. 31. DT Justin Tuck. His contributions typically get overshadowed in the Giants' dual victories over New England. But Tuck was Brady's personal nemesis, sacking him twice in each game. 32. Gigi Upshaw. The Oakland Raiders stalwart played in 3 Super Bowls, each in a different decade. In Super Bowls XI and XV, he teamed with fellow Hall of Famer Art Shell. They formed probably the best left side of any O-line in history, to embarrass both the Minnesota Vikings' famed Purple People Eaters and Eagles' defense as the Silver and Black won their first 2 titles. 33. CB Mel Blount. The Steelers' supersized corner collected a pair of Super Bowl picks and 4 rings. 34. CB Deion Sanders. The original shutdown corner went back-to-back with the 49ers and Cowboys in Super Bowls 29 and 30, respectively. Sanders picked off a pass for San Francisco, and the Steelers' unwillingness to test him the following year was a big reason Super Bowl XXX MVP Larry Brown snagged 2 picks. 35. Richard Dent. A rare defender who won the Super Bowl MVP, Dent was picked as the guy from the vaunted '85 Bears defense to take the hardware home after registering 1 1/2 sacks and 2 forced fumbles in Super Bowl XX. 36. Reggie White. Maybe the greatest defensive end to ever play the game, he set the official Super Bowl record with 3 sacks of Drew Bledsoe in the Packers' Super Bowl XXXI victory. 37. DB Ronnie Lott. The tone-setting defender of the 49ers' great teams started at both cornerback and safety on his way to 4 championships. 38. T. Joe Jacoby. He was one of only 2 Hogs to start on the offensive line in all 3 of the Redskins' Super Bowl wins. RB's John Riggins, 166 rushing yards in Super Bowl XVII, and Timmy Smith, 204 yards in Super Bowl XXII. Both had record days running behind Jacoby and company. 39. OLB Mike Vrabel, one of the consummate Patriots. He played in 4 Super Bowls and wound up with 3 rings. He also racked up 16 tackles, 3 sacks, a forced fumble, and 2 TDs on 2 receptions while lining up as a tight end in goal line packages. Not bad. 40. OLB James Harrison. He picked up a pair of Lombardis in 3 trips with the Steelers. He also left his imprint with an unforgettable 100-yard INT return off a Warner misfire, producing at least a 10-point swing in Pittsburgh's 27-23 victory over the Cardinals in Super Bowls LI. 41. Wr. Max McGee. Love this guy. After a long night of partying on the eve of the first Super Bowl, Miggy thought he'd be warming the pine for the Packers. He stepped in for injured Boyd Dowler to catch 7 passes for 138 yards and 2 scores, one a behind-the-back snare. 42. See Mike Webster, another 4-time Steelers champ. He was a throwback who also handled long snapping duties. 43. OLB Lawrence Taylor. He never notched a super sack, but we're not leaving the 2-time champion and greatest pass-rushing linebacker ever off the all-time team. 44. R.B. James White. Compelling case to be made that White, and not Brady, should have been Super Bowl Lee's MVP. White set single-game records with 14 receptions and 20 points. He scored 3 TDs and a key 2-point conversion in New England's comeback. White's 2-yard TD run in overtime provided the winning margin against Atlanta. 45. See Bede White-Smith. He had a pair of pick sixes, covering 94 yards, in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers Super Bowl 37 beatdown of the Raiders. 46. W.R. Jacoby Jones. He gets the nod over Super Bowl 31 MVP Desmond Howard as our return ace. Jones had a strong case to be the Ravens' Super Bowl's MVP after posting a single-game record 290 all-purpose yards, which included a record 108-yard TD on the opening kickoff of the second half. And that was after he ended the first half with his only catch of the game, a 56-yard TD. 47. Rob Gronkowski. No tight end has ever taken over a Super Bowl, but Gronk deserves a mention. His impact in New England's Super Bowl's victory win